Hi gang, it's Hexy. Alright, so we just wrapped up our second scenario in World War 85 from Storming the Gap. It's not one of the new ones because I'm still learning how to play the game, but I think I'm getting a decent grasp on it now. So this was scenario 2, A Matter of Bridges. And the Warsaw Pact, or Soviets, started down here, and they were trying to drive to, as you can see, the objectives on the map. There's one here, one here, one here, and one here. And they needed to take those, and then there were victory points that were, well, the rules, the Soviets were allowed to place them, and I'm assuming that's if you were playing the Soviets two-handed, so your opponent wouldn't know exactly what objective you were driving for. You got to place the point cards. But since I'm playing it solo, I was going to do it random. So they took C right here, but then the Americans threw them out. So I had put the point card under there, and I want to look at it to see what it was. Even though they didn't get it because the Americans took it back. So they would have gotten 1 point for that objective, but they didn't. All right. Now, just to give you an example what a couple of good tow crews can do, and the Americans had 3 to start with, 2 ground mounts and a Jeep, and one M1 Abrams tank, which is pretty potent. The Russians started off with 6 BMPs, 6 infantry platoons, and 3 T-62s. Yeah. And they had 2 HE strikes off board, and the Americans had 1 mortar team, or 1 mortar platoon, and the Soviets also had 2 smokes, which they used both their HEs and they used one of their smokes. Never really had a reason to use the last smoke, but look at the casualties. Look at the Russian casualties, man. ITV or tow missiles at point blank range, well, in the game at point blank range, and a lot of lucky non-missile reloads. I think I had 1 missile reload that had happened, and they were successful on the reload. The next turn they reloaded, but the M1 just trashed some stuff, and it was amazing that the Russians, when they dropped their smoke in this area here initially, and they skirted around and through the woods to close on that objective. The M1 was sitting over here on the hill to start with. He ended up moving over there. He got into town. He got driven out of town. And then there was some infantry also. I'm sorry. There was infantry over here too. The infantry ended up assaulting back and taking the town back away from the Soviets that were in there. And then the Soviets never did gain possession of it ever again. But the Russians, they did get into here with mass force and just could not seal the deal because you had a tow missile sitting up here. They had a Jeep tow that was down here in town. He got smoked pretty early. He did some damage though. He kept these T-62s at bay. You see 2 of them burning down here. But the infantry crew, both infantry crews with their ground-mounted tows, they survived. The tank survived till about 2 turns ago, and the M1 Abrams and like I say, they just, come on, you saw the casualties. They just chewed these guys up with opportunity fire. Plus, they had 2 action cards or activation cards. The Soviets had their designated formation card for a turn or 2. And actually, they only ended up with 1 activation each turn that the designated formation card was in there. So it just didn't pay for them. And then, the way you roll dice and you try to do your saves. I had multiple 3-hit dice rolls and then 3 non-save dice rolls. But in the end, the Soviets did manage to take objective B right here. So let's see what points they got for that and flip it over. So they're not going to win. It doesn't matter. But they got 2. So the Soviets end up with two objective points. And I think for the victory conditions here, for each objective, let's see. For each objective, choose its corresponding lettered point cards, blah, blah, blah. The Soviet player deals 1 point card, blah, blah. Soviet player looks at the points. Okay, that doesn't matter. Where are the victory? Oh, to win, the Soviets must control 6 points of objectives. They did. They controlled 2, so it's a wipe for them. They lose to the Americans. Wow, it's amazing. One Abrams unit, 3 tow missile units in a 106, an M106, a mortar platoon, just stuffed them cold. These BMPs aren't nothing for these wire guided missiles. And the what's an Abrams shoot? 155, 105, whatever rounds come out of an Abrams. Just no match for them. They just chewed them up, as you can see by all the burning hulks. All right, so this is Storming the Gap, World War 85. This is such an easy system to play with some great mechanics to it. I watching a lot of videos, reading instruction. When you successfully drop smoke, not only do you get to drop the smoke, like if it's an off-board smoke and you're successful and you drop a smoke here, you get to place another one adjacent to it anywhere, after you roll for if there's any scatter. And then you get to place the last one adjacent to any one of those. So you could stack them up like that, or you could have a big long line of smoke. And then after one turn, they thin. And then the next turn, they come off the map and the smoke is dissipated, okay? Fire for effect, your HE. If you have to use a spotter, you're going to roll to see if the spotter is successful. If it's a headquarters, it's going to be successful. You don't have to roll for spotting. And then you might roll for scatter, which you got to roll pretty high to get the scatter. But you drop your fire for effect on the target. And then whatever in this case here, the HE attacks were 3 dice at 4. So, you would roll your 3 dice at 4. Whether the spotter, if the headquarters is spotting, that might help. And then, you got your defense factor, soft target. He's going to get 1 dice at 6. Unless he's got a headquarters with him or something. Or he's in terrain that adds a dice bonus to it, which is just add another dice to roll for another save. So kind of like in your miniatures, you roll for hits, you roll for saves, and that's the way that works. So this scenario 2, we added in smoke, off-board artillery, and HE, and we had onboard mortars, okay? So, yeah, building into what the next one's going to be. But yeah, there you have it. So scenario 2, a matter of bridges. 2 points for the Soviets, definite NATO or American victory. Let's wrap this one up. Let y'all see how this turned out, and we'll move on to the next thing. Talk to you soon.